Welcome to episode 427 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent here as always. Got a great one for you this week. Got a great young blues artist named Paulie Blues who is joining me to talk all about his music, his touring, and everything he's got going on, a little bit of his background. Great talk with Paulie coming up. But before I jump into that, I should acknowledge the fact that this is the first episode I'm releasing since the passing of the legendary and mighty Ozzy Osbourne. I just figured I needed to throw this in because I am going to release an episode, like a tribute episode to Ozzy, but I felt I should acknowledge that I'm not going to be talking about it on this episode because, this whole episode is built around rock music, and I lean in the hard rock and metal direction, and of course, this podcast is named after an Ozzy Osbourne song. So it would be kind of weird if I just kept going and didn't acknowledge that, so I just thought I should throw this in here. There will be an Ozzy tribute coming soon. There's lots of content on my social media about Ozzy already. This affected not just rock and metal. This guy was a pop culture icon across the board. People loved him that didn't even listen to his music. In the same way that my dad likes Snoop Dogg and doesn't even listen to Snoop Dogg's music. This is one of those culturally significant more than just being a fan of someone's music when they lost. This is one of the biggest losses, especially in rock music, that we will ever see in our lifetime. So rest in peace, Mr. Osbourne, and we will be talking more about that coming soon. Sponsors, let me get in on that before I jump into this episode with Paulie. DEB Concerts, a concert promoter based right here in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. They bring tons of great acts to this area at the downtown level, at the arena level. At the arena level in Tulsa, they've booked acts like Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Megadeth, Lamb of God, Poison, and they book the Roadhouse stage, the DEB concert stage at Rocklahoma every year. This year, of course, is no different. If you have a full 3-day pass to Rocklahoma this Labor Day weekend, you can also hit up the pre-party, and DEB Concerts books that pre-party as well because it happens on their stage. This year, it will be headlined by Sebastian Bach, of course, most well known as the original vocalist of Skid Row. Playing all those hits, that day will also feature Lita Ford. And speaking of Ozzy Osbourne earlier, one of Lita Ford's most well-known songs is her track with Ozzy, Close My Eyes Forever. So that one will be showing up. That day will also feature Trickster, Rocket Science. The rest of the weekend on the DEB concert stage will feature Mike Tramp, formerly of White Lion, who have been on this podcast before. Dime Store Riot has been on this podcast before. One Night Stand. Fist of Rage, who has been on this podcast before. Van Halen, a great Van Halen tribute. Orianthi, an amazing guitarist who used to work with Alice Cooper. She will be out there playing her solo music, which really leans blues heavy. So if you're a Paulie Boy Blues fan and you're listening to this and you're going to be able to make it out to Rocklahoma, be sure you don't miss Orianthi. Hit up debconcerts.com so you're kept up to date on future events that are coming about. I, of course, will keep you up to date here. Follow them on the socials, DEB Concerts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've also got Rocklahoma Bitches, an institution out there at Rocklahoma since 2011. These ladies celebrate the love of rock and roll and heavy metal in Rocklahoma. They've got tons and tons of merch and swag, and guess what? These charitable ladies don't charge a thing. They've never charged a thing for any of their merch. They hand it out for free all the time. T-shirts, koozies, stickers, bags, nipple stickers, all kinds of great stuff. The list is great and long. They have new stuff every year. They also, Christy from Rocklahoma Bitches also always bids on the guitars that Rocklahoma sells where they have them autographed by the performing artist. She always wins one of those, and all the proceeds from that goes to charity. And Rocklahoma Bitches also sponsor Cancer Sucks every year. That happens in Tulsa towards the end of the year, November, December, usually at the Cain's Ballroom. Cancer Sucks is a great organization. They always put on a great show out there, sponsored by Rocklahoma Bitches. So if you see these lovely ladies out there and you had not seen them before, which I find it hard to believe, tell them you heard about them right here. Finally, we've got Sunset Tattoo, a tattoo shop located in Midtown Tulsa. Their tattoos are done good and proper. They're state licensed. They're Native American owned. 25 plus years of experience from Jake Thompson and his crew out there. That crew also includes a female artist on staff full-time. You can hit them up by phone, message, or even walk in to talk about what work you're looking to have done. They can help you bring your ideas to life. If you've already got an idea ready to go, of course, they can help you with that. Check out their socials, Sunset Tattoo Tulsa, on Facebook and Instagram. There's tons of photos on there to show that they specialize in all different kinds of styles. I've had a couple tattoos done by Jake at Sunset Tattoo that I'm really happy with. And I know many other people that have as well. Many touring artists coming through Tulsa also get tattoos done by Jake. So hit up Sunset Tattoo and tell them you heard about him right here on Thunder Underground. All right, so Paulie Boy Blues, let's get into this. Paulie is a great new young blues artist out of Maryland. He plays a ton in the DC, Baltimore areas up there in the Northeast. And he also crosses the pond quite a bit, and he's going to be doing that quite a bit coming up very shortly. We're going to be talking about that here in the interview. The man has actually already toured in Scotland earlier this year. He's going back here in just a couple weeks. He's got a UK tour coming up where he's playing Scotland, several dates in Scotland and England. He's already got one in the works being planned for early next year back in the UK, and he's working on a European tour for next year. So I feel like this guy's getting ready to kind of spread the word of his music, of what he's doing, which is just straight up blues rock. I mean, he branches about a bit. I've watched a lot of his live videos. But, you know, the root of this is blues rock. And it's so great, you know, when you see young artists embracing something, you know, so not just classic and way before their time or any of our times. You know, the root of blues, or the root of rock and roll. This whole podcast, yeah, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place right now, but this whole podcast, you know, was based around just different genres of rock music. I lean to the hard side, to the hard rock and the metal, but I've always embraced all the genres of rock music that I love, and blues is one of those. But I've always been more in tune with like blues with the hard rock edge, you know, like your newer artists like Kaleo or Joe Bonamassa, with Black Country Communion, or, you know, Samantha Fish. You know, she's pretty bluesy, but she's got a real rock edge to her. But traditional blues artists, you know, there's so many out there, but I don't think there's a huge cross section of artists to pick from that are in their 20s, like Paulie. There might be, but I've totally missed. But, you know, blues as a whole, when you think of blues, you think of, you know, an older guy sitting on a stool in a smoky bar, which is great. That's what, you know, we love blues. That's what it is. And that's what everything we love with rock and roll. It all came from one place. You know, playing the blues is nothing new. That's been around 100 years. But playing it from a fresh perspective, from fresh eyes, that's always a great thing in any genre of music. So when you see young artists, you know, really just not just playing that music, but really living it and soaking it in and playing it from the heart, you can see that if you've seen Paulie live or watched live videos from him, you know, and listening to him talk about it. You know, the man came on to the guitar playing aspect of everything because he quickly became a big fan of Hendrix. And then that, as we talk about, delved into other areas of the blues and everything. And he's well on his way, I think, to making a name for himself. Like I said, you know, you don't see a lot of young artists come out and within only a couple years of touring or playing shows, you know, already leaving America and playing the UK and playing Europe, you know, and basically making their way on their own. True DIY, which is something that's been talked about a lot throughout the past 10 years of this podcast. You know, when I have on, like say, punk bands or something, because that genre has always been notorious being true DIY, even bands that, you know, make a name for themselves and make it to the mainstream. So I'm really looking forward to see what, you know, Paulie does here in the future, because he's got a bright future. He's got, you know, many, many years to keep developing his craft and making a name for himself. And speaking of all that, you know, if you've listened to this podcast in any length, you know, every once in a while I talk about the fact that I work in the live music industry, travel around and work shows, and a show that I'm working coming up this coming weekend, actually, August 2nd and 3rd, is the Locally Grown Festival in Maryland. And I mention that, of course, because Paulie Boy Blues will be playing on this festival. So if you're anywhere, if you're listening to this because you're a Paulie fan from up in that area and you didn't know about Locally Grown, be sure and hit up Locally Grown Fest on Instagram. You can get all the info there. Paulie will be playing on Sunday, August 3rd. So I'm really looking forward to being able to get the chance to see this man live. Locally Grown will be at the Toca Junior Soccer Complex, which is near Urbana, Maryland. It looked like, on the map to me, not being from the area, but it looks like it's pretty much equal distance from both DC and Baltimore. So this is a great representation of music going on in the DMV area. It's called Locally Grown for a reason. It's a music and arts festival that focuses on bringing, the talent of that region, to the forefront. And they've done a great job with the lineup. 1899 Productions put this thing together, and they've got across the board, hip hop, blues, of course, here with Paulie Boy Blues. There's indie rock, pop, reggaeton, rap, tons of different genres. So like I said, get on Locally Grown Fest on Instagram, also on TikTok. But Instagram, you can get all the info there, everything you need to find to buy tickets and everything to come check out Paulie Boy Blues and all the other great artists on this. One more thing I need to mention before jumping into this talk with Paulie is that I recently recorded an episode with Glenn Hughes. And I say this very calmly, but inside me, when I say that out loud at any point, I'm jumping, for joy and overcome with glee. I'm trying to use very proper adjectives and not say, I was freaking the fuck out now. But no, that's not the truth, because this is the third time that I've had Glenn Hughes on the podcast, and that's probably, if I had to make one claim, if someone said, what's your biggest accomplishment from doing this podcast over the last decade, I would probably say talking to Glenn Hughes 3 times. Because this man, I put him on the Mount Rushmore of rock vocalists, along with Freddie Mercury and Chris Cornell and Mike Patton. I consider him one of the greatest voices of all time, as most people do that have heard him. A member of Deep Purple back in the mid-70s. 3 classic albums with him on the vocals, along with David Coverdale. And of course, throughout the years, so much great work. He was in Black Sabbath for a bit. Speaking of all the recent Ozzy talk, he's worked with Tony Iommi from Sabbath a lot in different other aspects. He's been a part of Black Country Communion for the past 15 years. And if you're listening to this because you love Paulie Boy and you love blues and you don't know Black Country Communion, definitely check them out. They lean to the hard rock side, but the guitarist is Joe Bonamassa, who is pretty much, I would say, the leading kind of blues guitarist in the rock world over the past 10 to 20 years. The guy's always making phenomenal music. He as well plays in the UK a ton, has a huge base there. And again, Glenn Hughes, an all-time legend, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Can't wait to get this 3rd episode coming out very shortly for you. All right. I believe it's time that we need to get into this with Paulie. Here is Paulie Boy Blues. Rambling on my mind. You got that released earlier this year. Am I right? And that's the fact that's your first studio release, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
What was the response kind of like from fans? Everything you've kind of heard over the past 6 months?
I think people were just happy to hear some music from me. I think it was about that time. Uh, Everything I heard was pretty good. Feedback. Everyone seemed to like it. Um, I'm really excited for our upcoming songs. I'm looking forward to hearing what the people have to say about them.
Was
Hmm.
that, I mean, what was the feeling like for you to be able to finally, get something out there for everybody to hear?
Oh, it was like the best feeling ever, you know?
Yeah.
I was really eager to do that. And then, the time was right. With Rambling on My Mind, actually, I came right back from Scotland and it felt like I had to get that out of me. Like, I was like, I think it was like the day we got off the plane, we were in the studio the next day, literally, like, um, and the song, a lot of the inspiration actually came from from Scotland. Like I played it for the first time in Scotland, actually.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Is the subject matter of the song, is it related to that as well?
No, it's actually a cover song.
Oh,
Well,
is it? Okay.
technically, it's a cover song because Robert Johnson wrote "Rambling on My Mind," but
Okay.
Robert Johnson died in like 1930 something, so
Right.
electric guitars did not exist yet, and pedals and amps and all that, it wasn't the same. So the way we play it is quite different, but different approach. But yeah,
Say, for instance, on the guitar solo on Rambling on My Mind, like how different is it? Besides it being electric, it's got that fuzziness to it. Like,
it's
what's the
it's.
difference, or what did you expand on it from, like, say, Robert Johnson or any other version you've heard of it?
I feel like the instrumental that we do is entirely different, and uh, it kind of just is like a blues in E that we took off, and the lyrics happen to fit. It's kind of that type of thing. Like it's a very just energetic blues jam, really.
Okay.
And Robert Johnson just played it quite differently. I don't know how to describe how he did it differently, but it's just a whole different song, really. You
Yeah.
know. Hmm.
Well, as far as songwriting goes in general, does the band do that as a whole whenever it comes to your original work, or is that like mostly you and then you bring it into the guys, or how's that work?
So the originals that we have now kind of stem from me and the drummer specifically. Me and him have spent a lot of time together just playing with the two of us, and a lot of our originals are like a bit old to us now. They're like about a year or 2 years old, and yeah, a lot of the creativity kind of came from just me and him in the basement just playing. A lot of the songs, and then over the years we kind of have put words over them and stuff. But for the most part, yeah, the I would say me and the drummer kind of made the original parts and the original songs. Yeah.
So most of them were kind of born out of like a jam session type
Yeah.
situation.
They all stemmed from instrumentals, and
Okay.
then the lyrics were not too hard to put in. I just kind of just said how I was feeling that day, and then that was the lyrics.
That's kind of how you've always handled that. Just like lyrics are kind of a spur of the moment thing, not something you write
Mhm.
down when you think of something and come back to it later.
I just feel like the
Yeah,
lyrics is me saying what I have to say.
that's cool.
And even the cover songs that we do, I pick songs where I'm like, wow, I couldn't have said that any better myself.
How about guitar when you're writing in that sense, like especially like a solo? Is it written in the spur of the moment as well, lyrically, or is that more of a structured thing for you?
All of the like everything's made up right on the spot.
Okay.
Everything. Mhm. Even at the gigs, really.
Really?
We rehearse, but
Yeah.
the solos are just completely made up right on a whim.
So moving forward, like once you get more music out there, your original music, the solos and, kind of the sessions live are always going to be kind of an improvisational
Hmm.
flowing kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, like there's some songs where I will do similar things, like I'll throw in like the same type of lick. Um, I have some like parts that I like to do over and over again. Some things they're just too cool to leave out, but for the most part, a lot of it is just completely made up on the spot. The majority of it, yeah.
Say so, for instance, whenever, say someone would come to see you guys live, the bulk of the sound's coming from you since you're the guitar and the voice. What does the rhythm section kind of bring to this band to, make it unique and kind of set it off in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I would say the bulk of the sound is coming from the drums, in my opinion. If you've ever been to one of our gigs, the drums is where all the sound is coming from.
Okay.
But the rhythm section consists of Jimmy on bass. He really holds it down. Jimbo is like he can almost play like Billy Cox. He's like Jimi Hendrix bass player.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimbo is the man. And we have a keyboard player too. His name is Nick Young. He's only 19, but he's been playing for like 10 plus years. So he can really play. And he holds down the rhythm section on the keys, and then I'll play rhythm on the guitar, then I'll go into a lead and he'll hang on with the keys, and that's
Yeah.
how we do it.
Like how quickly was that easy for you to kind of like, I guess the chemistry between you guys, with keyboards and the guitar kind of giving each other space to, do what you want to do live?
It was instant. I mean, I feel like the keyboard almost is like having like a rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
It's similar to having a rhythm guitar, really. Mhm.
As far as the album you guys are working on, where are you at, like in the process of that? Like I know online I read you said you had a couple songs,
Yeah,
ready to go.
we have a couple songs laid down. We're still working on it. We're gonna be recording everything we do in Scotland and England,
Oh
and
wow, okay.
I'm hoping to get out a couple tracks. We have 6 shows. I imagine at least a couple recordings will be good. I would hope so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, I want some live tracks on the album.
Oh, okay.
That's what
So
we're going
so is it
for.
going to be a mix of live and studio or
Correct. It'll be, we already have some studio takes down. One of them should be out literally any day now. Like I've already put it through the system, so I'm just waiting for it to kind of appear on Spotify and what is it called? Apple Music and all that. Uh, so I'm hoping that'll be out before we go on tour, and then we'll get some songs recorded on the tour, and then we're probably going to be recording a few more like in the upcoming weeks, but we won't get them out until after we get back.
do you have a kind of a timetable on when you hope to get the full thing out, or is it just a work as it comes kind of thing?
I'm not planning anything, honestly. I'm I'm really a type of guy that just goes with the flow. I'm not gonna plan dates and stuff. I don't see much point in that. I'm just gonna do it, and I'm working on it pretty fast. Like I'm pretty ruthless with it, so it'll come and it'll just be here when it's ready. I don't
Yeah.
even know how many songs I want to do. I'm not even exactly sure what songs I want on it, but I have like a vague idea of what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of going through it, collecting it all together as it goes. That type of thing. I don't know if
I,
that's how most people do albums, but
yeah.
that's how I do it.
Well, I like
Mhm.
that mindset. It kind of, it's got to be a little more freeing because you don't have anything holding you back from however you want it to go. That's how it goes. So, speaking of Scotland and England, you've been there, like you said, you're going back. What is it that eventually brought you, or what was it that first brought you over there? How did that work? How did you get over there the first time?
Well, originally, what brought me over to Scotland was my ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
She she's Scottish, and God bless her heart, she's a very wonderful girl, and that's what brought me to Scotland. Yeah, and from there, she showed me around, everything I needed to know, and I got into the blues clubs from there, and I met some good people. I met a dude named Gus Monroe from the Midnight Blues Band. Sat in with him and got into Ivory Black's Glasgow from there.
I mean, I know that the scene, you always hear about, the UK blues scene, being so strong. Was it pretty welcoming to you pretty quickly?
It was unreal, man. Uh, like, like the way they greeted me as soon as I walked on the stage, they were just like, "Oh my God, a real life American!" They were so enthusiastic just to see like an American blues player. And then they just took us seriously, man, and it felt great. It really did feel great. It felt like something I had never seen here in the United States before, honestly. Like, uh, I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to play over there, really, and that
Yeah.
I have the opportunity to play over there.
Is there anything, you're looking forward to this time around when you head back outside of, I mean, obviously, like you said, you're hopefully recording some performances for your album. Is there anything else that's kind of running through your mind about this upcoming tour?
Absolutely, man. Like I said, I'm only really familiar with Scotland.
Okay.
We're touring England now. We have 4 gigs in England. I've only been to the airport in London. I've never stepped foot outside of the airport. So this will be my first time in England, and I'm really thrilled to get out there and tear it up in England, man.
Yeah.
Uh, man, I'm going big time. I'm trying to do it all.
Yeah.
I wanna I wanna really do it to them in England, and that's what we're trying to do. We're a month out, and I'm just thrilled for the opportunity. This is great. Hmm.
Yeah. England is kind of ground zero for a lot of blues and rock and roll, like from the early days.
I know. I feel like this is like a dream come true.
Well, going back to, your early days, I'd read in your bio that it said that you kind of got introduced to Jimi Hendrix through a school teacher, and that's kind of what set you on your course. You know,
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that, like what it was that I know what it was about Hendrix that caught most people's eyes. It's just great, but like, what is it that, kind of caught your attention and set you down that path?
So you're saying what caught my attention with
Yeah,
Jimi Hendrix?
yeah.
Honestly, man, I think what it is about Jimmy, when I first started getting into Jimi Hendrix, I was fascinated by one thing about him. It was the fact that I had never quite seen anyone be that good at anything, straight up. Like, I feel like Michael Jordan was good at basketball, but he wasn't that good at basketball, you know? And like Quentin Tarantino, he makes good movies, but he's not that good. Hendrix is undisputed, and I've never seen anything like it. And it just blew my mind. And I got more into him, and I started learning more about the history of the music in general, the blues and stuff. And I realized how much of a pivotal figure he is. And just like I feel like I kind of discovered that there's two eras of this genre of music, you know. There's before Jimi Hendrix and after Jimi Hendrix. And I love Jimmy. I see him, he's like a brother to me, man. I look up to Jimi Hendrix and I in a way want to pick up where he left off, you know.
Do you remember the song? Like, was there a specific song that kind of caught you first?
Hear my train a coming.
Okay.
Hmm. And then
Was
really I got into a lot of his like 1970 summer tour, like the Cry of Love tour. A lot of those songs really kind of got me when I was um, really getting into like the whole blues scene, you know? Yeah.
was that the first song you tried to learn whenever you started playing guitar, or
Mm,
do you remember that?
I don't remember the first song,
Yeah,
but I learned like Purple Haze and Voodoo Child and all that, you know?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Hear My Train Coming was one of the first songs I learned, no. But I eventually learned it, yeah. It wasn't the first song, but I learned it at some point, yeah. Yeah.
Were there any of them that you were trying to pick up that took you a while just because of something
So,
weird he was doing, or like,
dude, I I I can't really play like most of his songs. I can only
well,
play like
you're right.
five or six of them. There's only some Hendrix songs I can play. Um, but yeah, all of them throw me off. And then the ones that I can play, I just kind of hack through them. I don't play them like Jimmy. But I think if I'm gonna try to play like someone, I would try to play like Stevie. I can kind of understand what Stevie does, you know. I
Yeah.
can, yeah, I can figure out some of his songs. Jimmy throws me off a lot. Jimmy's pretty weird, man. He's far out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some of his songs I can get, you know. Some of his blues songs, you know, his blues standards, I can do those. And you know, some of them I have figured out. Some of his licks I can come on. There's some parts I can play note for note. I just obsessed over them, and I can, you know, like the fills in between the chords of come on. I literally know those parts note for note, and you know that type of stuff blew my mind. I love Jimi Hendrix. I think he's the best.
Well, when you started learning, was it all self-taught or did you start lessons or
I was listening to the live recordings,
okay.
specific the live stuff. Yes. Um, because I would find like the same song over and over again, but just listen to a different date, a different city, and you know I would learn as much as I could from each version, you know, and that was how I did it. I learned so many different things in different versions of different songs, you know.
And you
A
did
lot
all
of,
that before like you didn't learn music, like sheet music or any of that thing, just
I still don't know
yeah.
music theory
Yeah.
for sheet music. I think I have a bit of an understanding of it, but I cannot speak it. I think I know it in my head. I just cannot speak it and I can't understand it. Like when people are like C sharp, C sharp, I'm like, what? You know,
Yeah.
or any of that. I don't know that stuff. Or, but I like as soon as I like if I'll play the chord and stuff, and then the bass player will play the chord. I'll know what key we're in. I just don't know what to call it. You know,
Right.
but no one ever taught me. I taught myself. So how else am I going to learn? You know, I don't
Right.
know. I figured it all out by myself in the
That's awesome.
basement, just on with the CDs and the YouTube and stuff like that. You know.
And I would guess that, like you said, everything you do is kind of improvisational and in the moment, having been taught basically by Hendrix, I'm sure that's where that originates from, right?
Hmm. I always looked up to Hendrix, Stevie. There's many more guys, but Hendrix was always the biggest one. Um, but really, I think Hendrix kind of inspired everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone guitar, yeah.
Like what route did you go immediately after that? Was it more just like you said, Stevie, was it into the blues realm, or did you go like kind of into the psych rock realm first, or like how did you kind of navigate that as a fan of music early on?
I was always keen on just playing the blues.
Okay.
Always, I just wanted to play blues. That was what excited me, and I don't know. I also like using effects pedals and stuff like that. And I do have some big amps and stuff. I like playing loud. So a lot of the people would consider me to be like a rock player and stuff like that. I'm sure like that's what like most like the average person would say. But deep down inside of my heart, it's just the blues, man.
Well, I mean, speaking of the blues, I saw that, you had been on stage with Kingfish a couple years ago. Like, how did all that come about? Like, what was your connection to him? And
Mm. So I've been going to Kingfish shows for years,
okay,
and I first met him in like 2019 or 20 or something like that at the 930 Club in DC. And I continued going to his shows every year. He came to town after that. Saw him, the next year. And then my brother went to school in Philadelphia, Temple University. One time I was visiting him and I saw on Instagram Kingfish is in town playing. So I was like, yo, man, let's go see Kingfish. We go to the gig. After the gig, I was talking to Chris Stone Kingfish, and he said to me, he was like, hey, man, you know what? Next time you come to my gig, how about you take down my number right now and shoot me a text and you can sit in with me the next time you come to the gig. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And sure enough, the next year I was at the 8x10 and I didn't know that he had seen me or anything because it was a packed show. And I did text him that day. And man, he was encoring and out of nowhere, he had never locked eyes with me that night. He just was like, you, come here. And walked around and he took off his guitar and just handed it to me. And that was a big deal, man. I got a lot of stuff happened because of that. A lot.
yeah.
And I'm very grateful for Chris Kingfish. And one day, me and him will talk again and I'm gonna tell him how much that meant to me, Because that did kind of kickstart everything. That was my first time playing on stage. And that's
Oh, wow.
weird. Isn't that ridiculous? Like
Yeah, yeah,
ridiculous, but
yeah. It's kind of like a storybook kind of movie style
yeah.
situation.
Yeah. He knew I played guitar and liked Hendrix a lot. Like we had talked about that. And he followed me one of the years before this. So I guess he had seen like my videos in my basement and stuff. And he was nice enough to share his spotlight with me.
So
Shows a
that
lot
kind
about
of
him.
like opened the doors for you as far as like, being able to secure
I
gigs on
got,
your own and
I
everything,
got to
or
play that venue, the 8x10 after that. Yeah, I was able to get my foot in the door right there. Hmm.
that's awesome. Well, I mean, speaking of, playing that and everything, like how strong is the scene, in the like the DMV area as far as blues goes? I mean, is there like a local scene outside of you, or is it more guys coming through, or
Would say that there is not much of a blues scene here. However, it's not bad really. Like it's not like we live in like somewhere where there's no blues scene,
right?
but it's not. It's like a bit less than ideal. It's kind of dead a little bit sometimes, but it's all right. We're still in the United States. It could be worse, but it's okay. And you know what I will say though? I think there's a lot of talented players here. While the scene isn't the best, I have some friends, man, really good players right here in Montgomery County, Maryland. DC, fantastic players. I would say, some of the best players in the United States are right here. I really do believe that.
Right. And
Hmm.
you mean like blues based?
Some of my
Okay.
friends. Hmm.
Yeah,
And yeah, blues and rock.
right
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
Coming up, you're playing locally grown festival. I'm going to be out there as well, and this one's, unique because there's a lot of different music styles on this. And
Hmm.
you're probably the only, I mean, I'm not positive, but I'm guessing you're probably the only or one of only blues artists on the bill. What does playing a bill like that mean to you where you're probably going to be exposed to people for the first time?
The more the merrier, you
Yeah.
know? I think it would be cool. Um, I think everyone likes the blues, because the blues was first. Everything comes from the blues. How
Yeah.
could you not like the blues, you know? And we've played some festivals where we were, you know, there's other bands on there, but we were maybe the only blues band, you know. Like I've played the Flow Jam Festival. There was all kinds of bands playing that day, like Grateful Dead cover bands and bluegrass bands and all that, and jazz bands and you know all kinds of stuff. I saw there's a lot of rappers and stuff on the headline or on the what is it called the flyer,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean I'm an open-minded dude, you know. I'm cool with anything and everything. I'm just excited to meet everyone and have a good time and just play um, the best we can. And then we'll be out of here. We'll be off to England shortly after.
Yeah.
hmm
I mean, does that kind of excite you when you're playing in front of a crowd that, might not be familiar with not just your music, but just blues in general?
I mean,
Like you
I
said, if
wouldn't
there's like a
say,
hip hop fan out there or something.
I wouldn't say I'm like specifically excited by like the idea of them never having heard the blues music or anything like that. But like, I'm really cool with like the idea of turning people on to it. You know, if this is their introduction to blues, that's pretty cool. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a new blues fan out there, someone that has never heard of it or something, you know?
Kind of, looking forward, like you said, you've got UK tour coming up after that. You're working on this album. Is there anything else you've kind of got down the pipeline or said, you're kind of a go with the flow type dude, but what else can we look for in 25 here from you?
In 2025, we don't have much like cool stuff coming. We have some 2026 coming, some
Okay.
cool stuff. But 2025, we'll have some like local gigs after we get back, couple festivals. Um, we'll be releasing a lot of music, you know, recording a ton of music, releasing songs. The album may be out in 2025. I don't know. Um, but we're already we have dates in Europe and Scotland and England 2026 already.
Oh,
So
really?
we'll be
So is
back.
that, I mean, have those been announced or they're just
Not
not
announced,
announced yet?
but
Okay.
we're not done booking it all, but we're trying to go on a couple Europe tours. We're gonna try to do the UK again and then like a proper Europe tour, you know,
Right on.
later in the year. But I think we'll
Yeah.
be up there at least twice next year.
If you could have your, pick of a tour here or there, besides say someone like Kingfish, who's an artist out there that's kind of touring right now and active that you would love to, get
There
the
are
chance to
so
share a
many.
stage with? Yeah.
There's so many. And what's interesting about me is I don't only like the blues cats, man. I like all kinds of music. Right now, someone that I'm into is Billy Strings a lot. I like him. I
Yeah.
go to his shows, man. I've gone to two shows now. I'm going again in on Halloween.
Yeah, he's great live.
Great, yeah, I like his shows. Um, I don't really like metal music, but I would kind of like to play alongside like metal bands and metal festivals, just because the people would not be put off by how loud my band is, and they would actually get down with it.
Right.
And I love playing metal venues for that reason. They straight up don't say anything at all. We turn it all the way up, and they're always cool with it. And I love that because I think it's so exciting, and it adds a whole nother. That's the full potential of my band. And I think when we're not like that, you're only seeing a fraction of our potential, honestly. When we practice, we are ridiculous with it. But that is how we do it,
Yeah.
you know? And if that's not your thing, that's not for everyone, but that's how I do it. That's how I've always done it. And that's how I like doing it. And that's me.
Yeah. I mean,
I like the
blues and
fact
rock and roll at its core, it's meant to be.
that a lot of these venues we're playing in England are all metal venues, and that's why I picked them. Because I knew they wouldn't say anything about the volume.
That's awesome.
Ivory Blacks, shout out to them. Great venue. Great venue. One of the best I've ever played.
What
hmm
what what venue was that? Sorry.
Ivory Blacks in
Oh, okay.
Glasgow.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm loving what I've heard from you. Looking forward to getting a chance to see you live here in a couple weeks as well.
I'll see you soon, man.
There you go, Paulie Boy Blues. A huge thank you to Paulie for taking some time out there to hit me up on Zoom and talk about everything he's got going on with his upcoming album, with his touring in the UK, with his kind of background and everything that Paulie Boy Blues and the Back from the Dead band have going on. Really excited, like I said earlier as well, that I get the chance to see this guy live coming up this weekend. So again, if you're in the DMV area, this great festival called Locally Grown is going on this coming weekend, August 2nd and 3rd. Paulie will be playing on the 3rd out at the Toka Junior Soccer Complex near Urbana, Maryland. Looks like it's about equidistant between Baltimore and DC both. Great location for a great festival that's bringing together acts from both those areas and all throughout the region, celebrating music and art across all different genres. And like I said, Paulie Boy will be one of those artists out there playing. So really looking forward to getting to check him out live, like I said. So in the meantime, check him out on his socials. Follow Paulie Boy Blues. Especially if you're listening to this from overseas in the UK or Europe, hit him up. Especially in the UK, so you can see those dates that are coming up here in just the next couple weeks in August. And if you're in Europe, give him a follow so you don't miss updates on what his dates are when he announces those for 2026. Paulie Boy Blues, I believe, is an artist on the rise, so excited to get him here on this podcast before, he's out there touring with Kingfish or Billy Strings. How about that? So if this is your first time listening, I greatly appreciate it. I've got 426 episodes, 10 years worth of episodes previous to this one you could check out. Hit me up on all the socials. Of those previous episodes, I know there's been some blues artists all throughout the years. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame artists, like members of Deep Purple, Guns N' Roses, Kiss, Def Leppard have been on this podcast. Members of, when you're talking about classic rock, members of Kiss, Grand Funk Railroad, Thin Lizzy, Lynyrd Skynyrd have all been on this podcast. Newer, more mainstream rock artists like Three Doors Down, Shinedown, Hailstorm, Breaking Benjamin artists have been on this podcast, members of those bands. Classic 80s rock bands such as Tesla, Slaughter, LA Guns, Warrant, Great White, Twisted Sister, Queensryche have all had members on this podcast. If you like it heavy, Testament, Megadeth, Corrosion and Conformity, The Black Dahlia Murder, Battlecross. Who am I missing? I'm missing a ton. Prong, Helmet, Clutch, Seven Dust. There's been, the guitarist for Lauryn Hill has been on this podcast. Shooter Jennings has been on this podcast. Vanilla Ice has been on this podcast. So there's a wide-ranging, eclectic amount of artists throughout the rock world that branches out a bit. So check out thethunderunderground.com. All the podcasts, you can listen to it right there. You can also listen pretty much anywhere podcasts are heard. So wherever you're listening right now, hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, so you don't miss future episodes. And speaking of those future episodes, like I said earlier, Glenn Hughes, the almighty voice of rock, of Black Country Communion, and of course, formerly of Black Sabbath and Deep Purple fame, will be on this podcast very shortly. There will also be an Ozzy tribute coming up soon as well. Some other artist that will be announced once it is officially recorded. That's all in the works. So follow on all the socials. You can find them all at thethunderunderground.com, but I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, of course, YouTube, and TikTok. So hit up all those socials. Give me a follow. There's content that comes out every single day, usually separate from this podcast, whether it be old clips of interviews or, live sets, news, or just jokey bullshit, because that's what we love, right? All right. Once again, a massive thank you to Paulie Boy Blues, DEB Concerts, Rocklahoma Bitches, and Sunset Tattoo. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.